I'm Professor Dora Akunyili. I'm from a native of Anambra State. I was born to a upper middle class family at Makurdi, and at a very young age I went to live with my grandmother. There I finished my primary school. From there I went to secondary school at KRSS in Soka. From there to the University of Nigeria in Soka. After my first degree I went through a direct PhD program, then later postdoctoral as a Commonwealth Scholar, University of London. I came back, I became a senior lecturer thereafter. From being a senior lecturer to going into public life, becoming a caretaker committee member of my local government, a member of many state boards. From there, I went to work in a PTF as a zonal secretary of the Southeast Zone. From PTF, I became NAFDAC Director General. From being NAFDAC Director General, I became Nigeria Minister of Information and Communication.
Many people know you for during your tenure in NAFDAC, which many say was a watershed in Nigeria's history in the fight against counterfeit drugs, both within Nigeria and the West African sub-region. What would you say is the major driving force towards this success?
First of all, I owe what I am to this country, Nigeria. And I've always believed that there is nothing I can do for my country that would equal what the country has done for me. All through my life, I went through school on scholarship because I'm a Nigerian. My secondary education was on scholarship because I had a distinction in my primary school certificate. My university education was on scholarship because I had a distinction for my school certificate. And my PhD was, of course, on scholarship. I was also a graduate assistant. My postdoctoral in University of London, Commonwealth Fellowship Award, because Nigeria is in the Commonwealth. So you can see Nigeria has pampered me all my life. And secondly, the way I was appointed as Director General NAFDAC left me with no option than to really fight with all my life. President Obasanjo appointed me Director General NAFDAC despite stiff political opposition. Most of the politicians had their candidates. Even the then Senate President had a strong candidate that he wanted for the position. But trust President Obasanjo, he's a man, I wouldn't call him stubborn, I would call him somebody that is steadfast in whatever he believes in. Positively stubborn, put it that way. Because of what he heard about me when I was in PTF, he believed that I would be able to do the job. And I quote him, he said that corruption is the bane of regulation. That once somebody can shun money, it is almost done for any regulatory activity. And what the problem we had in NAFDAC was poor regulation, fueled by corruption, and of course, lack of public awareness. So when President Obasanjo insisted on appointing me, politicians came up with reasons why I should not be appointed. They said, well, this is an Igbo lady. The Minister of Health is also Igbo, Prof. ABC Nwosu, and who are the drug counterfeiters. So they had a very strong reason, I can say, and gender was also an issue, but is not hardly brought on the table of discussion. So when President Obasanjo looked at all these things and insisted on putting me in that position, I was challenged. It's like I cannot disappoint this man who has trusted me so much. And besides, I also felt it was a position of trust, and my own sister died of counterfeit.
Yes, I wanted to. And I also people say you had a driving personal.
Yes, it's a very big driving force because I always remembered how she died. She died from counterfeit insulin. From counterfeit insulin to infection at the injection sites. And when I got into NAFDAC, the first things I saw that really put me on fire was insulin injections that were just water, unsterilized. So that actually confirmed to me that it was not only that these insulin injections were not able to bring down this poor girl's blood sugar, but also introduced infections at the sites of injection because the criminals were not even fair enough to package sterilized water, but they packaged not only products that were not insulin, but products that were not sterilized. So it was a very big driving force. And I also know there were families that had suffered and that we are still suffering. And I felt that, well, as a Christian, as a child of God, God gave me an opportunity to stop that menace, to stop that blood sucking that did not really start in 2001. Remember that blood counterfeit, well, I call it blood counterfeiting, blood suckers, they started their business in 1968. That was when the first counterfeit drug was detected in Nigeria, when the Crown agent divested as sole distributors of pharmaceuticals. And they grew from strength to strength until they took over the space. So that by early 2001, over 41% of drugs in circulation were outrightly fake. Over 68 were unregistered. So we were in a crisis situation. It was not only drug, what of food?
Yes.
What of baby milk, infant formula that was cassava flour with sugar and a little milk. Can you imagine how many babies that died?
Yes, Professor, I wanted to say, before your assumption as DG NAFDAC, NAFDAC was existing, but it was not bearing its teeth. What was your action plan?
Well, when I came into NAFDAC, first of all, I wanted to succeed. I think that should be number one in any assignment. If you tell yourself you want to succeed, every other thing will follow. Then what made the past administrations not to succeed? We needed to examine it with my wonderful staff. We laid off some staff, yes. But we kept most of the staff because what they needed was training and retraining and reorientation for them to appreciate that this is a special assignment, that it was a special assignment. And we started restructuring, creating more directorates, and very importantly, having zero tolerance to corruption. Because the den of regulation is corruption. Corruption and, of course, lack of awareness. Because if people know what you're doing, then you get help. If people don't know what you're doing, you can just be collecting money and relaxing. But if you are focused on succeeding and shun people's money, irrespective of whose ox is God, it's not just money that is involved in corruption. When people are your relations, you should not start looking at people as my brothers or sisters or friends. You should be moving like a train in anti-corruption movement, especially in the area of counterfeit medicine, because it's a form of corruption and the worst aspect of corruption. So when we now started enforced our registration processes, started, sanctions, registrations were being done before I went to NAFDAC, but there were very little sanctions. And when there are no sanctions, human beings would like to do whatever they like to, whatever is easier for them. Then we put in place very strong people outside this country, especially in India and China, to recertify drugs before they are imported into the country. That gave us huge success. And the person that certified our drugs in India, Goodal, in fact, Indians even tell me that the problem with Goodal is that he doesn't know that there's 99%. It must be 100. He was the head of food and drug of Mumbai, and a man of impeccable integrity, a man that even his enemies would tell you that this man is honest to the core. We had one in China. We were very desperate to get somebody in China, and in the end, when it became very difficult, we took somebody that eventually turned out to be very good. And again, we had a very strong structure at the ports, ensuring that samples are taken and of course and tested, and of course ensuring that they bring documentation from our analysts abroad. You see, these things, if they are not enforced, they come to nothing. We also had sustained systematic surveillance of all shops and markets from time to time to clean out the counterfeit drug and of course sanction people. It was when the traders at Onitsha started beating up our staff and destroying our vehicles that we closed the market. We didn't just close the market because there were counterfeit drugs there. No, not that we would allow them, but if they had allowed us to do our routine screening, we would have screened and removed from time to time whatever we felt was not the best for our people. So we had strategies that were novel. And these strategies came into my head from time to time. I shared with my hardworking staff, and they always moved with me because I slept, I ate, I worked NAFDAC. It was my life.
Yes,
like, for instance, a landlord, if we get any building with counterfeit medicine consignment, and the owners started running away, we would not be able to find the owners. We put up regulations that the landlords will be arrested. And as soon as we arrested a landlord in Lagos, people knew we are serious. And people stopped accepting to keep people's drugs until they cleared from NAFDAC. It was holistic.
Madam, you were operating in Nigeria. I'm sorry, it's our country reputed to be corrupt. How were you able to get your staff to buy into your vision and be dedicated to this fight?
It is very easy for staff to buy into the vision of a leader because the leader dictates the tune. When staff knows that you are not collecting money from criminals, they will not collect. And when they know that when they are caught, they are dismissed, they are sanctioned immediately, they are afraid. People are afraid of sanctions. And in addition, I found ways of making staff comfortable. You see, you can't tell people not to take bribe when they are hungry. I'm sorry. I'm not saying that when people are hungry, they should take bribe, but we should try and make life comfortable for people, at least so as to give you the moral high standing to punish them when they get compromised. Like, I gave them 13th month salary. I was giving them several welfare benefits, marriages, burials, and sending them on GMP inspection.
But you...
Pharmacists and non-pharmacists, making sure that for each inspection there must be pharmacists. So in that way, most NAFDAC staff had opportunity to travel. And when they travel, they get their estaco, they get exposed. So with all these lagars, I was able to find myself in a position to tell them, listen, we are doing all this for you to be comfortable. Please, let us grow NAFDAC so that all of us would enjoy and our own people would be kept alive for NAFDAC to remain alive.
In as much as it was a life and death issue, drug administration and control, it was also a do or die affair for some of the drug barons, let me call them that. Because the counterfeiters. What were some of the challenges you faced, and how were you able to overcome them?
Thank you very much. The drug counterfeiters were, first of all, believing that it was the usual Nigerian thing, that this woman is just making noise. In a few months, we take her off and we go back to business as usual. They sent people to talk to me. There was one that each time I remember, I get goose flesh. Somebody coming to say, you see, you can't really fight these people. They are totally entrenched. What you can do is, if they have 10 containers, you can tell them the 9 containers they should take, and then you return one, seize that one container, make noise about it, and then business will go on. Take your money and go. This is what people do in this country. And you see, when I screamed at him, he started saying he was joking. That kind of thing. Or people come and say, we want to discuss how to do things, how we really want to give you X, Y, Z money. And you say, which money? And you see, your reaction would not even allow that discussion to continue. And I also had problems of people collecting money and claiming that they were collecting for me. That was at the initial stage when people did not know what I was up to. There was one example of somebody that collected 2 million from a company and told that company that was coming for mediation in NAFDAC with another company that he was going to give me the money and that they were going to get their whatever approved. So when they came for the meeting, the guy actually brought the man to my house, but when they came like it was Christmas, and he was playing familiarity with me. I didn't know he was trying to tell the man, look, we are friends. Anyway, so in the end, when they came for this arbitration and their case was bad, and they said, nonsense, you can't do this. If you try it again, bam, bam, bam. So they left. They went to my husband and said, we sent 2 million naira to your wife through this person, and your wife disgraced us before everybody today. And my husband said, my wife, it is impossible. Go and take your money. So when I came back on weekend, my husband said, this is what is happening. I said, I'll call the police. I'll do this. I'll take them up. My husband said, look, cool down. Criminals can go to any length. If you take them up, it is your words against their words. And you may never win because they will lie and lie until they destabilize and distract you. The only thing you can say, which you can be reinforcing what I said, is to tell them to go and take their money because that man has done 419 to them. So there were occasions like that. But you know what? After about 6 months, there was no longer any move by anybody to bribe me because people now came to accept that there was no need for going to approach this woman.
You will not be compromised.
Because she would not be compromised. So I had no problem after maybe 4 or 5 months. And in fact, if anybody was giving money or asked to come and give me money to compromise me 7 months after being in office, that person would say, I will not go because she would not take. So that was settled, totally settled. And you see, these criminals, when their monies were rejected, they got violent, they got frustrated because they had been operating like kings and lords. Big companies thought that it was going to be easy for them, like Nestle and others, that we are packing expired milk and others, and we stopped them. In fact, that Nestle case was even, they were caught before I became DG NAFDAC, but it was being covered up. So the director, Mrs. Ukebu, a very upright woman, came and told me that this Nestle case was covered some months ago. Are you willing for me to bring it up? I said, please bring it up. We cannot cover anything. If we cover big people and say small people, then we better stop regulatory work because there's no way we can succeed. So she brought the file and I took it up, and eventually the milk was destroyed. They paid fine, I wrote an apology, and similar other companies. And you see, these things went international. People started knowing, Nigeria is no longer a dumping ground. I went to India. I had meetings with the drug manufacturers, with the regulators, and I told them to their face in India that you are killing our people. The fake drugs are coming from here and from China. The genuine drugs are produced and distributed here, and you're sending a counterfeit to us. This is not right, and this is what we have come to fight. This is what the president and the minister have told us to fight, and have put in place independent analysis that must be respected. If your drugs are not analyzed and certified, cannot get to Nigeria and so on and so forth. Anyway, so when these criminals got frustrated, they started threatening me, threatening my family, writing my husband. They went to Ibinedion High School to kidnap my son. My son denied me. He said I was not his mom, I was his auntie. And in fact, because of that, we had to whisk him to join his siblings in America, because my children actually went to America long before I became DG NAFDAC, because I won the American visa lottery. Anyway, let me not digress. So this continued until
it's something I had wanted to know. You didn't tell me your husband and your number of children anyway.
I will tell you. They got violent, they got frustrated, and they started by attacking NAFDAC staff. As I told you, they attacked them at Onisha. Destroyed 6 vehicles when they didn't want them to screen the market. They attacked them in Kano. They burnt our buildings. They attacked me and shot me from the back. My headscarf was shattered. Was
that close?
It was very close, because the scalp was burnt like hot water burn. The case is still in court. One of the suspects had been released by the Supreme Court, but others are still in court. And my prayer is that in my lifetime, that case will be concluded, because if it is not concluded, it's not good for our country, and so on and so forth. And eventually the whole system got stabilized when they thought I would run away, and I refused to run. My family actually did not want me to go on second term. That was why it took me about 1.5 years to write letter for my second tenure. I was inside my second tenure for 1.5 years before I wrote a letter, because my board, especially my chairman, Dr. Andy Andem, kept saying, listen, whatever you're doing in NAFDAC, somebody can go to court and declare them illegal because you've not gotten second tenure. Because I didn't write. My family didn't want me to have second tenure. It was President Obasanjo that called my husband and talked to him to support me to go on after 5 years.
Professor, I just want to find out from you as a Nigerian who has been through this in NAFDAC. What's your belief in Nigerians and our capacity really to turn around our country for better?
We can turn around any institution, any agency, any ministry if we are determined to do that. If we are determined to shun money, if we are determined to face the consequences of swimming against the tide, because it is swimming against the tide, there are consequences. There would be verbal attacks and there may be physical attacks.
From what you've started now in the institutionalization of this fight in Nigeria, how would you assess the fight against fake and counterfeit medicines across the West African sub-region today?
That is an aspect that really makes me happy, and that was part of why I was given an award in Niger. When drug counterfeiters were being chased out of Nigeria, because Nigerian regulatory environment became too hot for them, they started migrating to other West African countries and became a big problem to them. Our success in Nigeria started casting dark shadows on our neighbors. I therefore decided to institute WADRAN, West African Drug Regulatory Authorities Network, as a platform for West African drug regulators to platform to share strategies and work together so that these criminals would not find a country a safe haven to continue with their nefarious businesses. And to do that, I invited regulators from all over West Africa. We had a meeting in Abuja in 2006, and in that meeting we agreed on how to work together, and that really affected them very positively. I didn't really realize how much work I did for the sub-region until when I visit these countries. Even on private basis, I see how grateful they are. I've been to Sierra Leone, I've been to Ghana, I've been to Niger and some of these countries, and Cameroon, and when I go there, it's like they're even feeling that I'm doing more work for them than I'm doing in Nigeria. But actually, we are working for them, not just for their sake, but to make sure that these criminals would not go somewhere and reorganize, because they were actually being chased out.
Now, it's emerged in the international news in this past week that one-tenth of all drugs is fake across the world, and hence the need for coordinated approach. How difficult was it for Nigeria kind of doing it alone at that time?
We were not doing it alone. We were doing it alone in Nigeria, but we were working with other parts of the world. WADRAN, West Africa, as I told you, and Impact, International Anti-Counterfeiting, which I actually championed. I was the person that started calling for international collaboration, and it's been recognized world over that I started, now I wouldn't say I actually, NAFDAC started propagating international collaboration, and it has now caught on. And in fact, was it 2 days ago, some drug companies, 29 drug companies gave $6 million to Interpol to help in fighting counterfeit medicine and so on. So you see, drug counterfeiting involves a transnational criminal network and can only be fought through international collaboration.
Yes, with somebody with your kind of experience now, if you are called upon by any of these international organizations to really participate in this, what would be your response?
Oh, I will jump at it, because fighting these drug counterfeiters is my passion. I have been invited by countries to help them structure their regulatory activities. The last place I went to was Sierra Leone, and I even start by telling them that I don't want to negotiate payment. I am desperate to help and ensure that these criminals would not continue to kill our people. So I have so much passion for eradicating counterfeit medicine that there's no way I would be called anywhere and I will not go. There was a time I was called by United States Agency for Food and Drug in Kenya, but that was when I was indisposed. That was the only time I did not respond. Otherwise, whenever I'm invited anytime, anywhere in the world, and I have the space, I go. And whenever I go, people feel happy because somehow some people don't know how to get these things together. Because I've worked it all my life in it for over 7.5 years. It's part of me.
Professor Dora Akunyili, better known as Minister of Information and Communications, best known as a fighter against fake and counterfeit drugs in Nigeria, is our guest.